The iPhone 5S to many was the perfect iPhone design, so you can imagine the excitement to a lot of people when in early 2016 Apple released the iPhone SE, essentially the 5S but better. The SE looked identical but brought better speeds and a better camera. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're comparing the iPhone 5S and the iPhone SE all these years later. Roll the intro. I did a video on this last year, but I wanted to redo it for one main reason, and that is because the iPhone 5S is no longer supported by software updates. It's stuck on iOS 12, whereas the iPhone SE is capable of running iOS 13. Last year when I did this video, they felt really similar because they ran the same software, but now that there's an actual gap between the two, I felt like it was definitely a subject worth revisiting. And don't be fooled, even a year ago when they were both on iOS 12, the phones are extremely different internally. Yeah, they have the same exterior, but trust me when I say the SE is the much more pleasant experience thanks to essentially being the iPhone's success and a smaller body. That's a bit of a simplified version of what it is, but I'll get to the specifics in a bit. Let's start in 2013 with the release of the iPhone 5S. It looked basically the same as the 2012 iPhone 5, but it brought Touch ID as well as a new gold color. The 5S also was greatly improved in terms of specs, with the A7 chipset being the first 64-bit smartphone ever. It's thanks to this massive leap forward in tech that the 5S was supported all the way to the September of 2019 until iOS 13 came out. Yeah, it can't run iOS 13, but at the moment iOS 12 can do most things and download most apps, although no dark mode, unless you jailbreak it of course. Regardless though, the 5S is easily the best iPhone ever in terms of how it aged, and perhaps the best iPhone ever in general. It pushed a lot forward, and it's hard to deny that it was important, even if back in the day people saw it as just another iPhone 5. The early 2016 iPhone SE, on the other hand, pushed nothing forward, but it wasn't supposed to. It was meant to be a budget option to the iPhone 6S and contained basically all the same specs as the 6S, just in a smaller body. The iPhone SE is one of my favorite phones because it showed that, at least at the time, Apple was willing to listen to consumers. Some people wanted a cheaper phone, some people wanted a smaller phone, and the SE managed to appeal to both groups. Both these phones have the exact same Retina display at 4 inches, they look good, and that's really all that matters. They are small relative to most phones nowadays, but that's something that a lot of people liked about these phones. Touch ID is the same on both phones, being first gen, which feels pretty slow nowadays compared to newer iPhones, but it's still better than putting in your passcode every time. The SE does have a very slightly larger battery, but considering it runs more demanding software now as well as better hardware, I doubt you would notice any difference. The iPhone SE is capable of Apple Pay, which is convenient, and it also brought a rose gold color, so there's that. Overall, from the outside, these phones are very similar, and you'd actually be pretty hard-pressed to figure out which is which if you didn't know. That is, until you saw the SE badge on the SE. Regardless, where the actual changes take place are in the technical specifications and the camera. Let's go over the cameras. The iPhone 5S has 8 megapixels and can shoot video in up to 1080p. The iPhone SE has 12 megapixels and can shoot video in up to 4K. These are massive differences, and you can tell in the terms of picture quality, as you can see here. HDR and just everything is better on the SE, as you would expect. It's the same camera as the iPhone 6S, after all. Moving to video, again, 1080p versus 4K. You can see the comparison here. I will say with YouTube's compression, it might be hard to see just how much better the SE is, but I can promise you it is significantly better. Not that the 5S is horrible, but it isn't great. When it comes to the selfie camera, this is where the SE didn't improve things at all, with only 1.2 megapixels, same as the 5S. I'm not sure if these are the exact same cameras, but selfies look just as bad on both, so I suppose it doesn't matter. If you're super vain, these are not the phones for you. If you're more reasonable but still like having half-decent selfies, these are still not the phones for you. Camera-wise, the iPhone SE is much better, and you would expect that. The phone is almost 3 years newer, you would hope that the camera would be significantly better. The other big changes came in processing power. The iPhone 5S has the A7 chipset and 1GB of RAM, while the SE has the A9 chipset and 2GB of RAM, same as what's in the iPhone 6S. It goes without saying that the SE is more capable of doing pretty much anything. The RAM helps it a lot, it just feels faster, you can do more at once. The SE SE is the better phone. I wouldn't say it's the most fluid experience anymore in comparison to, I don't know, newer iPhones, but it is pretty darn good on iOS 13, and I would say quite a bit better than the 5S, which isn't bad on iOS 12, but it can feel choppy sometimes. Also, the SE can run dark mode, and the 5S can't, so there you go. The iPhone 5S is forever stuck with iOS 12. It got 6 years of support, which is insane, but it has officially been retired, as well as the iPhone 6 actually, which means that the SE and the 6S are the lowest spec'd iPhones right now running the latest software. So we have to ask the question, is iOS 13 the final update for the iPhone SE? Probably not, at least in my opinion. The reason the iPhone 6 didn't get iOS 13 is because of the single gigabyte of RAM. So I do believe that the iPhone SE will be capable of running iOS 14 next year. Mind you, there's no guarantee of that, but personally, I think there's a good chance. Regardless though, it is going to last quite a bit longer than the 5S in terms of app support and just being a pretty solid modern smartphone. Don't get me wrong here, the iPhone 5S is awesome and I think it lasted a lot longer than anyone in 2013 would have expected, but it is old now, and unfortunately, in a couple years, the iPhone SE will probably be in the same situation. And once that happens, the iPhone 5 design will officially be dead. So I guess if you're using an iPhone SE or 5S even, enjoy the small screens while you can. They're not going to be around forever. Before we wrap this up, I did want to mention that both of those phones are pretty darn good when it comes to budget options if you need a really cheap smartphone. The 5S can be found for under $50 on eBay.com if you look around, and the iPhone SE can be found for under $100. So those are both really good prices. Obviously the SE is the one you should buy, 100% if you're looking between the two, but still very, very cheap for very capable smartphones. But what do you think of the SE and 5S? I think it's a pity that the iPhone 5 design isn't going to be around for that much longer, but writing's on the wall, you know, it's just the way the world works. And hey, Apple might eventually release a new phone with a similar design, you never know. If you found this video interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram if you want to for some reason. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.